All right, we now welcome on a very special guest, Coach Greg Kampe, the head coach of the University of Oakland basketball team since 1984. I mean, over the course of the last 40 years, you've had over 700 wins, 5 Division I conference championships, 4 NCAA tournament appearances, and a huge win over Kentucky in 2024. Thanks for joining our show, Coach. I just want to start with this. How exciting is this time of year? I mean, clean slate, new group of guys trying to come and gel together. I mean, it's got to be the best time of year to be a basketball coach. Am I right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird now because you've got 42 days before your first game to get 30 practices, and plus you had 8 weeks in the summer. So it's not like it used to be where everything led up to October 15th, Midnight Madness and everything.
Right.
So that excitement really takes place in June now, and when you get your roster here and you see now we're kind of in the dog days. We've gone for 8 weeks in the summer, we've gone 3 weeks. We have an exhibition game in 16 days, and that's the exciting thing because now, you've worked so long with these guys now, you want to see them play a real game against somebody else and just see if they are what you think they are.
How is the transfer portal and NIL kind of adapted how you recruit and how you handle these things? I mean, is it kind of a brand new group of 10 to 15 guys every year for you almost?
Yeah, I mean, it's 100% change, to complete revolution of a new way of doing it. I've got 10 new players this year. I had 11 new ones last year. We play this goofy zone, and it's really, you got to teach that thing, and it's
right.
We're not very good at early in it, and then hopefully we get better as the year goes on. I don't have guys that had played it a lot helping me teach it like we used to have. So it's a real different challenge than it's ever been, but it's also exciting because your roster changes, and you can look at that both ways. You can be after we beat Kentucky, if I had everybody back, we probably would have been top 25, top 30 team in the country preseason, and we had to start all over. And we really finished strong last year, but by our standards, it wasn't a great year. And now I'm looking at a group of guys I think could be one of the best teams I've ever had. And so I'm excited as hell about it and want to get going. I want to see us play.
Yeah, it's definitely always exciting to see. And one of those games that we're always excited to see you play, your Oakland team play, is that annual game against Michigan State and your buddy Tom Izzo. I wanted to ask, so Jared teed it up, you've been at Oakland for a while. You are now the longest tenured college basketball coach in the country. How does that, do you like that? Does it just, I mean, being honest, does it just make you feel old, or how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it does really emphasize my age. There's no question about that. But, everybody treats Grandpa pretty good. You know what I mean? Everybody loves Grandpa. Nobody, when you're just a dad, you're making mistakes and people get mad and upset with you. But when you're Grandpa, you can do whatever you want. So it's kind of nice to be Grandpa, right?
Yeah,
you talk about Izzo. Izzo's second to me, and I got him by 10 years. So, it's an honor to be it, but it's not something that I dwell on. I just hear it a lot. Every city we go into, every press release that's written by the opponents always says that. So it's always a question from the media. It gets old, but probably not as old as I am. So it is what it is, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate you being on this podcast, fellow boomer. I mean, we're exactly the same age, so we can relate to each other a little bit here, Greg. And before we move on to more talk about your basketball team, I'd like to talk a little bit about you as a youngster. I mean, when I was a kid, I played, all the sports, whatever the season was, I played all the sports. I assume you were the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I in high school, I played football, basketball, I ran track, and our high school started baseball when I was a junior, and my track coach wouldn't let me go out for it. I wanted to play all four, but I was a fairly substantial, important piece of that track team, and we had a chance to win a state championship in that, and he didn't want me on the baseball field getting hurt or something. Otherwise, I would have played four sports in high school, but I played baseball all summer. So, you played football in the fall, basketball in the winter, track in the spring, and baseball in the summer.
Amen.
No, those were the good old days. I mean, it didn't used to be where you could play four sports in high school. I know a lot of high schools have changed that, where you can play multiple sports during the season. That's definitely a cool thing to do. I wanted to, so Tom Izzo obviously is behind you. Mark Few is number 3, tied number 3rd with James Jones at Yale as far as the longest tenured head coaches. I mean, I know you said that gets old to think about, but one thing I think about that, and I know the guys Jared and Ted agree, and I'm sure you do too, I think there's so much value in that, being a long tenured coach at a program. And that also goes with the players. You know, we grew up, and you definitely know all about this, knowing guys that are at a program from when they're a freshman, you know, when they were recruited, freshman, sophomore, junior, and by the times, you know, sometimes they leave as a junior, senior, like you get to know these guys. And now it's every year. You kind of talked about it, Jared's question, talking about NIL, transfer portal, and all how that's changed. It's a new roster every year, even, you know, for fans, but definitely for coaches. I mean, you're learning that new roster every year. And we're seeing some coaches, you know, some of those coaches that were long tenured, Jim Boeheim, Roy Williams recently, Jim Larinaga, Tony Bennett, Bruce Pearl just stepped aside. Some of these coaches, do you think it's the change in the game? I mean, I know you don't want to put words in any of these guys' mouths, but do you think it's the change in the environment, the culture, and everything that around college sports that's making some of these coaches that are legends? I mean, you look at the list of some of the coaches that have recently retired from college basketball, they're absolute legends. Do you think that whole culture of college basketball is really changing how guys want to coach and if they want to keep doing it?
100%. All those guys are my generation of coaches. And if you have a direct conversation with them, they just don't want to deal with it. They don't, you know, it goes completely opposite of everything they've taught, everything that they believed in their programs, and all that you said at the beginning of that question about, you know, building a culture, living a culture, taking a kid from 18 years old to 23, watching him go from 185 pounds to 230 pounds, watching him go from a child to a man. And then, you know, experiencing that with him and living it with him. And then for 10 years after that, him coming back and being thankful. And, you know, now it isn't about the money. It's about how much money. You know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody's got money now. So you're not losing them because of money. You're losing them because of how much money.
Right.
And it's a hard conversation to have with people that have never experienced being coached for 4 years and growing and loyalty to a program and things like that. It's a hard conversation to have with agents and you know, the handlers of the young men, the people that are in their ear, and that it's hard to have with, you know, Twitter world or those types of fans that believe the player should be able to get everything he wants because coaches get all this money. So why shouldn't the player get all this money? And, you know, there's a big difference between an 18 to 22-year-old kid who's supposed to be in college to learn and grow and mature and become an adult, and be put in a position to make a livable wage for the rest of their life versus, you know, a 1-year jackpot of money that's gone in 3 years, and you've lost all the valuable lessons that are going to make you wealthy, more than just financially, but wealthy in all types of things in life. Yep. And my generation doesn't want to deal with it anymore. And, you know, I mean, you heard, I mean, if you ever had a conversation with Nick Saban, he is very outspoken about it. You know, I mean, they lost that game to Michigan, and he went to his lake house to take a few days off, and his staff called him and said, I got 33 players in the office here wanting to have a conversation with you about next year. They're going in the portal and they're going to leave.
It's crazy.
And he had to, you know, the season ended and he didn't have a chance to unwind. He had to turn around, come back to Tuscaloosa and deal with those 33 kids. And it just, that's not what he signed up for.
It's crazy how much it's changed, and talk about, you know, how things have changed. One thing I think about that was a positive note on your program was going back to that 2024 season. On February 9th, you posted a photo of your team out to eat where nobody was on their phone. And you said how special this team is going to be and how bright their future was. Was that kind of when you realized that team, you know, might be different, just seeing how they gelled together?
No, I realized how good we were when we opened the season and got a bad call. We would have beat Ohio State. We got a bad call with a minute to go that allowed them to beat us. And then 2 nights later, we went to Illinois, who went to the Elite Eight that year. And we had the lead at the under 7 to go in the game. And I knew then this was a special, talented group. But yes, to your question on how they were socially and how they fit together and how they cared about each other. And it was, you know, it was probably the last year that we'll see. I mean, I had 4 or 5 guys that had played for me 4 years. And then even that, Townsend left after playing for me for 4 years because he got a truckload of money.
Yeah.
And, but you're right. That group was a very special group, and you have to be to do special things.
When you look back on that team, do you think on the positive stuff, or do you look at how well you guys were playing down the stretch? I mean, Golke was lights out. Lampman was a great leader. Townsend was playing out of his mind. Do you think, obviously you think positively about it, but do you almost think like, man, we were so close to being maybe even a Final Four team? Do you think of the negatives almost first rather than the positives?
No, when you're in my business, you wake up in the middle of the night. I called, I'll never forgive myself. I called a timeout with 13 seconds to go in regulation, and we had the ball. I didn't like what I saw, but it was a really bad timeout because if you remember, NC State had this big kid named DJ Burns, right?
Right.
And he was not real good at the defensive end. And my timeout allowed them to take him out and put a kid in, and that kid made the deflection that, sent the game to overtime, where if I hadn't called that timeout, I'm 100% sure that what we ran would have got the ball in Townsend's hands. Now, would Townsend have scored? Would he have missed? Would he got fouled?
Right.
Would he have shot an air ball? I mean, who knows what would have happened? But, I wake up sweating and shaking at night still because, as you said, NC State went to the Final Four. And, we don't get that chance very often. And we were 17 or 13 seconds away from the Sweet 16. And, when I have conversations about the team, obviously there's, great memories and our fan base and all that. But when I'm by myself, it's going to haunt me the rest of my life.
Coach, again, back to us being close in age. I remember the days when, it was always Michigan State, but it seemed like that third team in the state was the U of D, and now that you've been there 42 years, you've stamped Oakland, I think, as that team, the third team here in the state. Comments on that? You've been there 42 years. It's just amazing run, and you are Mr. Oakland University basketball, really.
Well, as far as what you're talking about, my goal was to get us to 2.5.
Okay.
We didn't want to be the third team. We wanted to be 2.5. We wanted to be in the conversation. I didn't want to supplant either one of them, but I wanted to be right there with them. And we've had our moments, but, I don't kind of given up on that because I don't care I just don't think you can break that stronghold. This state is just so either green or it's, maize and blue. And,
right.
And we've always been the cute little story. And I guess I'm okay with that, but I do think, we've had quite a run, and, I think we've put ourselves in conversation. We play them both this year. If we beat one of or both of them, who knows what people will say. So we're in a position to prove ourselves, but you have to do it every year. And, it's difficult to do.
Checking some notes before we got you on, I didn't realize, the family you come from. Your dad played at the University of Michigan, played football, was on their national championship team in the late 40s. Your kids all were stellar athletes. Talk about family a little bit. And, you talked about being a grandpa. Nothing like being a grandpa. I can tell these guys know that firsthand from my conversations with them. But talk about your family a little bit here. Maybe some of our listeners aren't aware of the Kampe family.
Yeah, my father played at Michigan, so the first word I ever said in my life was Michigan, because it's old Bob Ufer, right?
Amen.
And my brother also played at Michigan. He played for Bo, was there during the 10-year war, was on those teams that never got to go to the Rose Bowl. They won 2 Big Ten championships, but didn't get to go. His last year was the Orange Bowl year with Rick Leach when they lost Oklahoma. I think it was 10-6 in the Orange Bowl. The first year that you could go to a bowl if you didn't, and the Big Ten could only go to the Rose Bowl, and then they changed that back in the 70s. And I'm old enough to remember that.
Me too.
I had 3 boys. They were all athletes. My youngest son, chose music. He went to the Berklee College of Music. He's in LA trying to make it in the business world. My middle son went to LSU and played football. I got to go to the national championship game that they lost to Alabama, right, down at the Sugar Bowl, which was a cool experience for Dad. And my oldest son played baseball at the University of Cincinnati. That was, I love Cincinnati. I loved his coach, and that was a great experience for me to watch him and get to go down and see some of his games. But, we're into sports.
Yeah.
I grew up in sports. My dad was a high school football coach. So I grew up in that, and I've been blessed by it. I mean, I've lived a great professional life because of what my family gave me the path and opportunity to be into the coaching world.
That's awesome.
No, it sounds like that the foundation was set pretty early on in your life, and you've continued it on. It's funny to hear you say music world, football player, baseball, but you're a basketball coach. Did you drive them away from basketball because you were always at the gym?
They were all too small. My middle son was a linebacker at LSU. He's 6'1". He was about 245 when he was at LSU. But he if he shot a jump shot, it would be lucky if it even came close to hitting the rim. And he was a football player from day one. And my oldest son played both football, basketball, and baseball. He could have played Division I football, I think, but he chose baseball. And then my youngest, he really got into the music while in high school, and sports kind of went the other way for him when he was in high school. And he was he is a very talented drummer. So I don't know where he got that from, but not from me, that's for sure.
No, you never know. That's definitely cool. Last one for me, Coach. Again, we appreciate you making time to do this because I know how busy it is for you right now. Still recruiting. You probably got to recruit all the time, kind of what you're talking about, and coach up your current team. But I wanted to ask you about the latest news that kind of came out, or some of the latest news with college basketball and potential more expansion with the NCAA tournament, going to maybe 76 teams, and then it might be like an opening 12-game round, or there might be some like opening round before like the actual tournament. There's some of that logistics that needs to be figured out. But basically, more tournament expansion. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously gets more teams in, gives more teams a chance to get into the tournament, but I'm kind of on the side of like less teams is more, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think we got enough teams in it. I think the NCAA tournament is the greatest athletic spectacle there is. I think the world would say the World Cup is in soccer. And I think many football fans would say Super Bowl, but that's 4 hours.
Right.
The NCAA tournament's 3 weeks, right?
Awesome.
And it is. I think it's the greatest spectacle in the game, and it's, everybody does a bracket. People that don't even know anything about basketball do brackets. They pick them by the name of the school or by the colors. I mean, it's fun. It's it's probably the best betting. With betting becoming so big, it's probably the best betting spectacle there is. People flock to Vegas. They flock to during that opening weekend. It grabs the world and holds its attention for 3 weeks. Yep. And I don't know why you'd ever mess with that. And I get, greed, Gordon Gekko said greed is good, right? But I'm not sure Gordon was right. I just think you leave it alone and let it be what it is, and just enjoy the damn thing, man. Just don't mess with it. Don't change it. Just embrace it and make it, what it is, and enjoy it. Don't try and make it better. It got to where it is for a reason.
I'm with you. I got one more question for you, Coach. This is maybe more of an X's and O's one. When I think of Oakland basketball throughout the years, you've kind of adopted always having one elite shooter on your team and running a lot of plays for him, like a Golke or even Travis Bader before that. Where did you come up with this kind of recruiting tactic where let's go get the best shooter I can find, and then I'm going to find ways to get him the ball in scoring positions? Where did that come from?
Well, it came from, no one had ever heard of Oakland, right? And I mean, I remember when we went Division I and we got into the Mid-American Conference, which is now the Summit League. And Kansas City was in the Mid-American Conference. And I went to a meeting, the introductory meeting, and the assistant athletic director at Kansas City came up to me and he said, "Can you get me on Pebble when we come out to play you guys?" And I was like, I looked at him, I thought he was joking. And
Right.
and the truth and the reality is everybody thought Oakland was in California. Nobody ever heard of it. No kid ever grew up saying, "Hey, I can't wait to get to Oakland. I can't wait to play at Oakland," right? So if you have these high expectations, if I want to be number 2.5 in the state of Michigan, I had to come up with a reason that kids would want to come to Oakland. So we tried to come up with a style of play that was a little bit off the wall, a little different than everybody. And it was pre-analytics, so it was before everybody realized shooting the three was the way to go. And we decided we were going to score a lot of points. We scored 189 in a game once. We scored, we averaged in Division I. We've led the nation in scoring. We've had the best. We've led it in 3-point shots. I've had 8 different guys lead a statistical category, which is more than any school in the country. We have more than any other school in the country. We've only been Division I 25 years, and yet we have the most because we came up with a system and a style that in recruiting, we could say, look, Travis Bayer's the all-time leader in the history of 3-point shooting. Look what Jack Golke did. You know why Jack Golke made 10? Because he got to shoot 20.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How many coaches out there are going to let you shoot 20? It gave us a stigma or a spiel that we could use in recruiting to help us get really good players. And that's really why I did it. The analytics have always said shoot the three. I mean, it didn't take a brain to do that. It just took probably being a guy that's been at the same place for a long time and nobody was going to question you.
Wow.
They're not going to, well, why are you doing that? Or you shouldn't be doing, think about our fan base. I don't think there's anybody in that arena that's ever seen anybody else coach a game but Greg Kampe.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be 100 years old to see somebody else that a coach. So all they know is Greg Kampe. Yep. And that's good. It's bad too. I mean, there's a lot of them that would like to see somebody else. I mean, every time we lose a game, it's about time for him to go. I think.
Right.
But in the same token, nobody really questioned the system, why, and everything, and mainly because we had a lot of success.
Yep.
And with success breeds the ability to kind of do things your way. So that's why, and it's worked for us.
Yeah.
Well, I know one of your favorite sayings is consistency is the hallmark of success. And man, you've been nothing but consistent there at Oakland, Coach. I got one final kind of fun question to get you out of here. Okay. Since we're the same age, I'm very curious about this. We throw out any Oakland players, but your favorite college basketball player of all time, who would that be?
Pete Maravich.
That a boy.
Not even close.
Not even close.
No, he's the greatest college basketball. He's not the greatest pro to ever play.
Nope.
But he was the greatest college basketball. Imagine if they had the 3-point line at some.
I know.
They did an analytics of it, and they said he would average his senior year. He would average 54 points a game and had the 3-point line.
Think about that.
And he also led the SEC in assists.
Right.
Of course, his dad was the coach. He had the ball on every possession.
This is true. Well, Coach, I mean, first of all, that's a great answer. You're right with me there, big guy. But again, we want to say thanks for the time. This has been awesome. I mean, you got an exhibition game coming up on the 22nd against Alma, and another one followed the 30th with Rochester Christian, and it all begins for real. I think you open up the regular season at Michigan, don't you?
We open up number 5 Michigan, then we go to number 1 Purdue, and then we go to number 2 Houston. Wow. 5, 1, and 2 to start the season.
Hey,
it's probably going to be 3-0. But the O might be first.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a pleasure, man. We appreciate it. We'll be watching you guys. Hopefully, we'll get you on here somewhere down the road if that's all right.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. Thank you for having me.
All right, Coach. Thanks, man.